Today, remember this. Almost every period in your life tends to feel way more permanent than it will eventually turn out to be. When I was younger, I imagined that my life would unfold as a series of chapters. School, then university, my first job, getting married, kids, so on. But that's not how any of those things felt from the inside. None of those chapters felt like chapters. They felt like life, the way things were. The people, the routines, the worries, the inconveniences, they all secretly conspired together to try to convince me that they would stick around forever. But of course, for better or for worse, most of them didn't last forever. Then you wake up in your 30s or your 40s and you realize that all of the classic neat and tidy chapter headings have come and gone. I'm not saying the words midlife crisis, but I am definitely hovering around midlife and experiencing some crisis adjacent uncertainty, so it's a lot. When I'm feeling like this, what is helpful is to remind myself what I said at the beginning. Things that feel permanent usually aren't. And if that's ever in doubt, I think back to my first ever trip to the United States. Let me explain why that's helpful. I was a graduate student back in Scotland at the time, and I was traveling to the US for a conference. I was skint, which is a very Scottish way of saying totally broke. So I was looking for the cheapest flights possible. The ones that I found happened to involve a 12-hour layover in New York City. 12 hours, no joke. I literally tried to make a playlist of all the songs I thought I might like to listen to, and it only came to 6 hours long. I was literally gonna have to listen to basically every song I could think of twice through just to make it. So I wandered around JFK. I took the air train to all the different passenger terminals. I bought an overpriced sandwich. I bought another overpriced sandwich 8 hours later and tried not to think about time passing or not passing. I could and totally should have left the airport and explored New York City. But I was young and thought that you weren't allowed to leave the airport in between flights. I was dumb. But eventually, my next flight was called. I still remember finding my way to my seat on that Aer Lingus plane and just the colours. Everything was so vivid and bright, more than I have ever experienced. I tell you this because that impossibly long day disappeared into memory, just like every other ordinary Tuesday before it. It was the longest day of my life, no joke. It changed me as a person, but it passed. The thing that felt like it would never end did, and now barely occupies a sentence in the story of my life. This happens to me all the time, generally in ways more subtle than a 12-hour layover, but still. A difficult project at work, the sleepless nights with a newborn, training for a marathon, even good periods. When you're living them, they all try to convince you that they're going to stick around forever. But then one day you look up and realize they were just passing through. I don't think that means we should rush through the difficult seasons or cling desperately to the good ones. If anything, it makes me want to hold everything a bit more gently. Because whether today was exhilarating or exhausting, it's quietly becoming part of the story of my life, a memory. And memories have this habit of feeling shorter, more brief, than the lives we lived to create them. So today, remember this. The chapter you're living right now probably feels more permanent than it is. One day you'll look back and remember it more briefly than you experienced it. A question to take with you: which day of your life so far has felt just the absolute longest? Whether for good or for ill. You know mine. Talk soon.